It's 6 in the morning. Yellowstone looks completely normal. But deep beneath the ground,
Several kilometers below the surface, enormous volumes of hot magma are forcing their way upward.
the first warning isn't a giant explosion. It's movement. Earthquake activity suddenly begins increasing, far beyond the area's normal background level.
Scientists immediately know something unusual is happening.
But even now, nobody can simply look at the data and say exactly how big the eruption will be. By late morning, the ground itself begins to deform. GPS instruments detect changes that would normally be almost impossible to notice. Gases escaping from the volcanic system begin changing too.
These are exactly the kinds of signals volcanologists watch for when a volcano becomes restless.
Authorities begin closing roads and restricting access to the most dangerous areas. Most people still don't realize how serious the situation could become. Then the earthquakes become stronger.
Hundreds of small earthquakes begin occurring in rapid succession.
The ground beneath Yellowstone is now under enormous geological stress. At the surface, geysers and hot springs become increasingly disturbed. Then comes something people can actually see.
A huge column of steam and volcanic gases rises into the sky.
Emergency officials now understand that this isn't ordinary geothermal activity.
The evacuation expands beyond the park.
But scientists still don't know the exact moment the eruption will begin.
Then the ground shakes again. This time, the earthquake is followed by a sudden change in the ground. The system has entered a completely different phase. Eight hours remain. Ash begins appearing in the atmosphere. The first particles may be carried far from the volcano by high-altitude winds. For aircraft, visibility and engine safety become major concerns. Across the region, people look toward the horizon and see a sky unlike anything they've ever witnessed. And then, everything becomes strangely quiet. Then, deep beneath the surface, the pressure finally wins. A massive rupture tears through the crust. The eruption column rises into the atmosphere. Millions of tons of ash and volcanic material are launched into the sky. Close to the eruption, fast-moving pyroclastic flows race across the landscape. But the most far-reaching danger isn't necessarily the lava. But the most far-reaching danger isn't necessarily the lava. It's the ash.
Volcanic ash is made of tiny fragments of rock and volcanic glass.
Heavy ashfall could disrupt transportation, agriculture, machinery, electronics, and water systems.
And the ash wouldn't necessarily stay near Yellowstone. Wind would determine where much of it traveled. But the story doesn't end when the eruption stops. But here's something important. A supereruption would not simply mean the end of humanity. Hollywood often portrays a supervolcano as an instant apocalypse. Reality would be far more complicated.
The effects would vary enormously, depending on eruption size, wind, location, and how much material actually
And scientists would be watching for warning signs long before the final eruption. That means our hypothetical 24-hour countdown is really the final chapter of a much longer geological story. Yellowstone's last giant caldera-forming eruption happened about 640,000 years ago. And despite its history, scientists say there is currently no evidence that a catastrophic Yellowstone eruption is imminent. In fact, scientists consider a catastrophic eruption in the next few thousand years exceedingly unlikely.